room of 50 coaches if you'd like
Okay.
to, or, you know, we can answer for however many you'd like. Totally up to you. Try to make it as realistic as possible and have fun.
Okay. Sounds good.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. So welcome to the PCA workshop. Positive Coaching Alliance is what PCA stands for. My name is Paige, and I will be kind of leading this discussion today. I don't want it to be just one-sided where I am talking the whole time. I really, really would love your participation and your thoughts and ideas to bring to the table. So again, my name is Paige. I've played various sports. I played softball, volleyball, basketball. I like dodgeball in the high school gym. You name it. I'm very, very competitive when it comes to playing sports, and it's just being an athlete is just a part of me. If I could choose, I'd probably still be an athlete to this point, but you know, that ship has sailed, and now I'm trying to make an impact in different areas. So I went on and I played Division I softball at Northwestern University, which is just north of Chicago in the Big Ten. Go Cats. And after graduating from Northwestern, I coached some high school softball. And today I'm running softball clinics with a very, very strong emphasis on mental training, which is something that I'm super passionate about, and which is why I love PCA so much, because positive coaching and positivity in general is just very highly important to me as personally. So I've had many coaches over the years, and as an athlete, it makes me feel like I'm an expert with coaching, even though as you can see, I'm not in my 40s, I'm in my 20s. So some of you may have a lot more coaching experience than me. And I think that these workshops are so neat because I can learn from you, and then you can learn from me as well. So I know I'm coming into your space and you don't know me other than what I just told you, but as coaches and post athletes, I really think that we all have the same goal here, is to make these athletes better, make the youth better at the end of the day. So I truly hope that after today, you can take at least one thing away from the workshop in order to impact your team and help you grow as a person and as a coach. So with that said, the sign-in slide up here, if you haven't done so already, you can pull out your phone. It's all tech savvy and electronic. You're just going to text to the number 650-763-2405 and include all of the following. We got a #26425. Don't put any spaces in there. That's something that people run into sometimes, and they'll add a space in there. First name, last name, and email address. So what this is going to do for us at PCA is we are going to be able to give you credit for being at the workshop today, which I'm sure you guys all need. And then this allows us to give you guys more resources. You have your book, and then by having your email address, which I know it's always a little skeptical giving out your email address because you don't want to get spammed with a bunch of email. I have the same thing all the time, but I personally get PCA's email on a weekly basis, and I think that it's always a great reminder going throughout life and the busy times of your season to have those little reminders, and they're just really good little emails throughout your week. It's just once a week that just kind of bring you back and remind you of how to implement some of the things that we're teaching at PCA and positive coaching into your team, and pouring that into your team and your sport. So with that said, after you guys are all done, let me know, give me a thumbs up. Cool. All right, so we will move forward. Okay, so like I said before, I am a little bit younger, I'm in my 20s, and I actually didn't know a whole lot about Edwards before training with PCA. I actually found out I didn't know as much as I thought about a lot of the coaches that are huge advocates for PCA, which has been really fun to dive into that education. I do know him because he coaches for ASU, and I'm here, we're here locally in Arizona. And it's actually one of my personal goals to hear him speak publicly, because he has such a great message and a mission for his athletes. I just like kind of want to sneak onto the field and like hear him give like a pep talk at some point. Now that I've learned more about him. So his quote up here: "When the book of your life is written, will it say that you made a difference?" And this really, really speaks to me, especially in the last year, because I've really been personally on this mission to try and figure out, you know, how am I going to impact, and, you know, how do I want to be remembered? So I'm going to have you guys write down the answer to 2 of these questions, and we'll go with the first one first. How do you want to be remembered 40, 50, or 60 years down the road? And just kind of put your pencils down when you're ready, and I'll kind of know when you guys are done with that one. Perfect. Okay. Would anyone like to share their answer today?
I'll start.
Okay.
I wrote down, I'd like to be remembered as a good teacher, a kind person who helped others.
Okay, awesome.
I wrote down a friend and mentor that deeply cared about every person.
Okay. And then my second question is, how are you going to make an impact and make a difference in your life?
To the players or just in general?
Just I mean, it can be towards the players because we're talking about that, but I also think it's good to kind of look at that just like personally.
So can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
Yeah. How are you going to make an impact and make a difference in your life? All right. Do you want to share first, Kelly?
Sure. This is kind of a big, deep question. I wrote down, I just want to shine light on people, and I just want light to shine through me to others.
Amazing. Go ahead, Ruben.
What a cool answer, Kelly. I wrote down, Kelly's response, I love Kelly's response, not very specific, and mine isn't very specific either, so maybe you weren't looking for specific. I put down, I want to be a good parent, friend, neighbor, and life partner.
Okay. Okay, so
life partner, life we met together.
if you guys agree, let me know. But these things that you guys just wrote down are all going to translate into what you think that a good coach would be, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a double goal coach, and getting into more of the content here, I want you guys to remember those as we go through the rest of this. But just introducing PCA a little bit more to you guys. Raise your hand if you've been to a PCA workshop before. Okay, so no one. And then raise your hand if you're a first-time coach, or I guess, so start with raising your hand if you're a first-time coach. Okay, what about you've coached for 3 or more years? Okay, 10 or more years? Okay, perfect. What sports do we have kind of represented today?
Currently, I coach
a lot of.
Go ahead.
I've coached a lot of different sports, but mostly volleyball.
Okay. What about you, Kelly?
Currently, I'm coaching lacrosse, girls lacrosse, but I've also coached soccer, field hockey, basketball, and track.
Awesome. Okay, and all this can relate to any team sport. So as we go through this, We're going to keep answering questions and learning and kind of figuring out what it takes, what it means to be a positive coach and have that positive impact on your kids and on your teams. So one more thing about PCA is I wanted to share that my favorite thing about PCA is that the concepts that we are teaching coaches are all backed by research and proven theories. So it's not just things that we're like making up and throwing out there. These things are like legitimate data and proven in order to make us better coaches and train coaches to be train their athletes to be better athletes and better people. PCA is on a mission to change youth sports, and these numbers up here that you see are yearly. It's yearly data. So we are training coaches, 80,000 plus coaches a year. We're reaching over 3.3 million youth per year, and then we're having 2,500 live workshops like the one that you're in today. Another little piece about PCA was founded in Stanford and based off of proven studies, like I said before, back in 1998. And one of the major things about Positive Coaching Alliance is we're teaching positive coaching. So if you could describe a coach that you would have liked playing for, or maybe if you have kids, what kind of coach would you want your kids to play for? How would you describe that a great coach or that coach that kind of pops up into your head?
Well,
go ahead.
No, your turn, Kelly.
So just when you said describe a positive coach, my daughter has a new swim coach this year. And just dropping her off at practice, I just got to see just literally 10 minutes ago, just how she greets her players, the swimmers, when they walk in. I mean, it's cold, it's freezing cold here, and they're like cold, and they come out of the locker room and they're all like, whoa. And she just gives them the biggest smile and the biggest high five. And she tells them, every one of them, she tells them something they did really well at the meet on Saturday, because they all had a meet like the weekend before. And I'm just always so impressed by that. Like they just are so happy to see her when they walk into a pool. And, and the coach they had last year was not that way. The coach they had last year was like, look at the line, look at the practice run up, get in the pool and warm up. Like that's all that he ever said. So it's just really a different atmosphere. And she gets excited about going to practice, which is
just
really
like setting the stage and bringing that energy, which can be really hard as a coach, especially if you're having a bad day on your own and having to bring that energy for other people.
Yeah. And she had like butterfly wings on, which meant they were going to do butterfly all day. But like she had butterfly and she's got these huge like Halloween butterfly wings, like when all the kids walk in and they're like, it's Fly Day. Yay. I'm like, this is so fun.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Ruben.
Yeah. The coach that came to mind, one of my son's coaches, he was a junior high water polo coach. And what it really impressed with me was how organized he was and how well he communicated with the parents. And you know, because the opposite can be very frustrating for a parent.
Right.
You know, when you show up to pick up your child at the end of practice and you find out that practice got changed and, you know, you got to come back an hour and a half later. And I mean, that happened all the time, I find. Anyway. Don't get me.
Yeah, the communication is totally key because, I mean, the parents are responsible for the kids. And if you have a good, strong communication, then things will go more smoothly. And I think, too, there are times it's difficult to communicate, or as a coach to communicate with the parents, especially the hard conversations or the challenging conversations when conflict arises. So and we'll get into that more a little bit later. But so we talked about like basically what positive coaching means and what that phrase means by your guys' answers. So what does that create for the kids then?
I think it creates a place where they want to be and they want to work hard, and if they're enjoying it, they're going to give more effort into it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking again to the situation that I described. I think it made my son more calm and confident, and you know, I think he knew what to expect. And I think that just like a parent gets frustrated with disorganization and lack of communication. I think it can be disruptive for kids too.
Yeah, definitely. So as our goal as PCA for today is we want to help you guys implement these things and these different practices in order to get the peak performance out of your athletes. We want to teach life lessons through sports, and that's what positive coaching is all about, because our mission is better athletes, better people. So the power of positive, and this just kind of backs it up even more of the positive coaching, and we're showing the research and the facts is the power of positive. I have up here these two quotes from Dr. Barbara Fredrickson. If I could have a volunteer read the two quotes, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so it's there's a perception that the best way to get what you want out of employees or players is by negativity or threats, but negativity doesn't work as well as positivity. Mm-hmm. Positive emotions are especially contagious, and a leader's positive emotions are more contagious than anyone else's.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So PCA believes that positivity is the most powerful way to get the most out of your players. And like I said before, this is backed up by research and more people like people in psychology and professors like Dr. Barbara Fredrick, if I could just say her name correctly. This is just one example of how we can impact our players. You are the leader as the coach for your players, so you're in such a powerful position to impact them in either a positive way or in a negative way. So you could impact their day in a positive manner, or you could like totally crush their dreams. Like, you have that power, and I know you guys aren't going to do that, but there's definitely power with the coach, because I know just from personal experience how a positive coach can make such a great impact. Or even like when you think about the workplace, which probably would relate to you guys. Have you ever been around someone who has been constantly negative, or is just like constantly having that negative energy, and how does that make you guys feel?
Not good.
Yeah.
It's like it's contagious.
Mm-hmm.
It can be contagious, and it can wear off, and you
Mm-hmm.
find yourself falling into being negative also.
Mm-hmm. For me, in my own workplace, I know that I have to actually like leave the conversation or leave the room when things are going into like a negative momentum, or the whole gossip thing, or just negative things in general, because I just don't have time and space for that crap, to be like completely honest. And that, I feel like that is such a parallel to these kids and youth, and they're looking up to you to bring that positive energy, just like you were talking about your daughter's swim coach, and bring that positive energy. And I know that can be tough sometimes, especially if you're having a bad day, and you have so much power in that position. So we want to use it as wisely as we possibly can. This study, after study shows that benefits of a more positive approach, and this was in the Sports Illustrated article, I believe it was last fall, and it's just continuous research showing that the negative and the aggressive coaching style is really outdated, and it's not improving athletes. It's not letting athletes play to their highest level and get the most out of your athletes. And if you don't believe me, or you don't believe PCA, just look at these 8 elite players and coaches. And these 8 players and coaches are just a small sample. I believe there's around 200 or over 200 that are advocates for Positive Coaching Alliance. So you see the players and the coaches up on the screen, and I'm sure you're familiar with some of them. But are there any coaches or players at the elite level that you can think of that demonstrate positive coaching that works? or that you've seen success out of?
Well, the guy that you have up there, is Brad Stevens one of the ones up there? Maybe he's not up there. He might not be one of the ones pictured. Is he up there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that guy to me is a positive coach and he what makes him stand out above the even above the others up there for me, Paige, is honoring the game, respect for officials. He does it in a way that I see very few coaches at the Division I or professional level that they're able to do it. It's just really impressive to me.
Awesome. Does any other players or coaches come to mind for you, Kelly?
I recently just met Janine Tucker, who is the lacrosse coach up there. Okay. And every time I see her, like, positivity just oozes out of her body. It's ridiculous. You know, in lacrosse, a lot of times coaches are pretty hardcore about, you know, trying to be tough, and even with girls lacrosse, and she's just having fun. Like, she's just smiling and laughing, and you'd think she was, you know, teaching kindergarten. She's just really, really positive, and it works. Johns Hopkins record is impeccable. It's amazing. So it's cool.
Awesome.
I think another one that comes to mind for a lot of people is John Wooden. Paige, are you familiar with John Wooden? He's the legendary UCLA men's basketball coach. Championship coach. The pyramid of success. He's known for his pyramid of success, and it's all about character and values and that, and the process, and that, you know, and his players, they claim that he never talked about winning, but they won all the time. And so he's someone that in a lot of our workshops, that if we say, give me an example of someone that you think was a positive coach, for a lot of people, especially my age, my generation, that name will come up. Awesome.
Okay, so this just like reiterates for me to that at PCA, we still believe that it's important to win and be competitive. We're not like pushing that aside, and we aren't just trying to teach like raw participation, like it's all good and dandy, but it's mending the two concepts together of positive coaching and lessons through sports, along with the winning and the competition. So what negativity does, and these are two sports psychologists for high level performing teams. But what I want to kind of point out is, how has a negative coach affected you before?
I think, I mean, thinking back, the negative coaches that I've had just made me nervous. And I agree that it distracted me from my task, but I just remember feeling anxiety before I even went out on the field,
right,
court, and not being able to, not performing for myself, but performing to please the coach. And that wasn't the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm different than people are different, but I never responded to negativity from a coach. I can only remember 2 or 3 times that I really got chewed out by a coach. And it never made me play, but it never made me play better.
Right.
And then I really needed to feel that the coach was on my side and believed in me. If my play, my performance really suffered when I didn't sense that.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I mean, my own personal story about how a negative coach affected me was, I can remember it like so clearly. That they would just yell at me constantly in practice for making mistakes, and like always on me. And it was like, I believe like I wanted to cry at practice like all the time, because if I made a mistake, I just felt like this big. And this led to me being afraid to make mistakes on the field, at practice and in the game. So I was afraid all the time. And like, how that's not serving me at all, because I was not able to play at the performance that I knew that I could, or that I know that I can now. I didn't know as a kid and a teenager that I had the ability to play at a higher level. I just wasn't getting the support that I needed from my coach at that time. And like, honestly, this has followed me throughout my entire life, and I'm still working today on accepting failure and moving through failure, and looking at it as a learning experience rather than failure. So like we said earlier about the power of you as a coach, you have so much power to impact their lives in a positive way by really pushing that positivity and trying to keep the negativity to like a very low level. Which is the entire reason I am so passionate about this mission to instill positivity, because I know as an athlete, or back when I was an athlete, when I was a kid growing up, this is exactly what I needed. So would you guys agree that positivity works better and negativity distracts?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And why do you guys think that there is so much negativity in sports? Why is it so easy to be negative in sports?
There's a lot of emotion involved, and there's a lot of passion involved. There's a lot of effort that goes into it. And then, the outcome isn't always what we want, If we're playing, you and I are playing a game, we both want to win, but only one of us is going to win. And so one of us is going to be disappointed, which is often a negative emotion.
Mm-hmm.
There's the temptation to want to blame others or take our frustration out on others, like the referees, or, it's the coach's fault or whoever,
Yeah.
If Kelly would just pass me the ball more, we'd win, So I think a lot of it, I think those are some of the reasons for negativity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that the culture of parents, a lot of them just think that if their child's successful in sports, they're going to be successful in life. And they, now they're called lawnmower parents, I think, instead of helicopter parents. And they're just trying to pave the way. And they feel like if their kid has no failure or controversy, they're going to be great, successful people. And they forget that a lot of the failure in life is what made them successful. So I think I think parents are just afraid to watch their kids fail at anything or struggle.
Definitely. So at PCA, we want to be able to provide as many resources and training as possible for you guys as coaches, so that we can be more positive and have that positive impact on your athletes and your players and your sport, because at the end of the day, better athletes and better people. Just to kind of go back, you have support from PCA. You have the book that was given out to you guys today. It's only like 70 pages or so. So 3 pages a day, you'll probably get a few like little nuggets out of it in order to implement and impact your team in some sort of way. As well as those weekly talking points, the emails that I was talking about, that just are like just quick little reminders and little inspiration to be more positive with your team, as well as our website, the PCA Development Zone, which has tons of resources if you want to go check that out as well. So what makes a great youth sports experience for kids?
Well, for me, getting to play in games, playing time, when I was on teams where I got to actually play meaningful innings or minutes or parts of the game, I enjoyed it a lot more than when I was on a team where I just sat on the bench the whole time. And I've experienced both.
Right.
I think when the kids are together with their friends, they like the people that they're on the teams with. And I also think when they're winning, I think it makes it much more fun when they're actually having success.
Yes. So here at PCA, a meaningful athlete experience, it means feeling connected to teammates and your coach. Number 2, believing that they can improve. And number 3, feeling proud about acting with integrity. So if our players are able to get these 3 things, what might happen for these players and their experience in youth sports?
They'll enjoy it more. They'll have more fun. They'll want to come back and play again next year.
I think they'll win more.
Yeah, definitely. When you're having more fun, I feel like you just win more in general. I feel like that's what happened for me.
You tend to play better. You tend to play better, right?
Yeah.
And so And when you play better, you might win more.
Right. So we have a coaching model that are going to help all three of these things, staying connected, improving, and integrity. And just before we get into a little bit more of those, I have a video with Edwards, and I'll play that here, and it's all about understanding your legacy. So did you guys want me to play it?
You can skip it.
Okay. Okay. So again, back to, when I introduced Edwards to you guys earlier, I absolutely admire his message and his mission for athletes and just youth sports in general. So that's just a helpful reminder. But kind of diving back into the model of coaching, PCA's model of coaching, the double goal coach, and what that means is, so we have striving to win, and then we have teaching life lessons. So I'm going to ask you guys, what does it mean to you guys to win? Or what does it feel like to win?
Feels great.
Satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
It feels satisfying. Mm-hmm. It feels rewarding. It feels, it's a feeling of accomplishment.
You have confidence.
Yeah, definitely. And then I'm going to go over to the other one. And what are the lessons that you can teach your kids, or what are some life lessons that you've learned through sports?
Oh boy, I can rattle. I've learned about teamwork. I've learned about work ethic. I've learned about setting goals. I've learned about supporting teammates when they struggle. I've learned to win gracefully, to lose gracefully. I can name a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have anything to add, Kelly, or did you hit all of them?
I'm going to just add organization and time management.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so when we look back at those two answers to those two different questions about winning and then life lessons, to me, I don't know about for you guys, but it feels like the answers to the lessons that we learn in sports goes so much further and deeper, and it's just more meaningful at the end of the day compared to just winning. So best case scenario is that we mend these two together, and we are striving to win and teaching life lessons all at the same time, because at the end of the day, that is what's most important to these kids, is having these life lessons that they can take on with them for a very, very long time. So we can jump into the rest of the principles. But yeah.
All right. Thank you. How'd you feel doing that?
Pretty good. It's way harder. Obviously I've practiced it and ran through it a couple times, but it's way harder to remember and stay on track with what you intended to say, and then hearing the answers and actually responding to the answers at a moment's notice. You kind of know what they're going to say, but you really have to, when you ask them to answer questions, you really want to give them feedback that makes sense, I guess. Yeah. It's just hard to take in information when you're trying to remember information.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's why we do this too. And Ruben and I aren't trying to throw you for a loop, but as you go on in these demos, if you ask us a question, a lot of times I'll give you an answer that I get at workshops. Right. Because you get a lot of pushback from coaches. And I think when I first started, that was hard for me, because I had the answer that I wanted to say, that Kelly wanted to give them. And then I had the PCA answer that I was supposed to give them and to point them back to the principles. And, once you become more familiar with all of the principles and all the concepts, it's much easier to point them in the direction of, well, is that what a double goal coach would do? Or put the question back on them, or ask the group if you're not sure how to answer. Those are all just skills of facilitating that you'll pick up on.
Right. Yeah.
And then when the jerk in the front row asks you a question, you're not like, I don't know. I don't have
Yeah. So the interactive piece is definitely that'll probably be the hardest thing to kind of navigate at first, but you just kind of work through it and do the best you can.
Yeah. Well, it really, it helps to make these workshops more meaningful to the coaches too, because anybody can get up and just read information off a slide. But
Right.
if we really are trying to meet the needs of the coaches, you need to know what the needs of the coaches are.
Yeah.
So that is what will make an impact in the workshops, because they can go online. I mean, there's online workshops for these. And if they wanted just information dumping, they would have just gone online. So the partner's hiring you because they want you to get the coaches talking and discussing and thinking and challenging and using their own examples and all of that stuff. So that's really the key to having a great workshop. And it does take the pressure off of you, believe it or not, because they're doing the work. You're just posing the questions and the exercises. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Ruben, I would love to hear what you put down for Paige, some positive things. I know there were a lot of positives and maybe some suggestions as she moves
just
forward.
all kinds of positives, Paige. I found your first demo particularly interesting. I really did. I thought there was an interesting. First of all, Kelly knows that my style. What would you say if you were to say one thing about my style as a trainer, Kelly? What is there? Take a stab. I'm wondering if you'll say what I'm thinking of. What do I do a lot of as a trainer? I've heard you say.
Yeah,
tell
I mean,
other.
I think you challenge the coaches really well.
Okay. So where I was going, Kelly, was I asked questions. I asked the group lots of questions. And I thought that you asked a lot of questions of us. And I like the questions you asked. I really do. I thought that they really got me thinking. Hey, Kelly and I have done this a million times, and you asked questions in a slightly different way that got me thinking and processing. And I love that. You were very natural with that. And you would be in that mode, and then you'd switch to slide mode. And then the slide mode was more, it was less dynamic. It was more, I'm trying to remember what I'm supposed to say, and I don't want to forget. And when you first switched into slide mode, I said to myself, "Uh-oh, is this how it's going to be?" But you kept going back and forth, and so it was an interesting mix. And I think that the slide mode, you're gonna refine that. You're gonna get less worried about each bullet point. When you're on that slide with the PCA statistics, you're not going to recite them all. You're going to say, let me highlight just one. You guys are one of over 80,000 coaches PCAs, because we see it. It's right there in front. The part where I leaned in and listened the most closely and was most wondering what's she going to say is when you told the story about how your experience about being affected by some kind of negative coaching. I forget the exact details, but I don't know if you were referring to one coach in particular. I was very curious at what level that happened. Did this happen at Northwestern? Now, maybe you tell us, maybe you don't, but I was really curious. I wonder if this happened at Northwestern. Did this happen when she was playing bobby socks?
It was in travel, just a billion.
Okay, travel. So I was just curious about that. And then it was funny, the timing of that, because I had written down, you'd been going for a little while, you've been asking us questions, we're moving along, and you were drawing a lot of our experiences out, and I wrote down, I want to hear about her experience a little bit. Okay. Now, that can be overdone. That can be overdone, but you're far from that, And sure enough, I wrote that down, and within a minute, you were telling us you were in this story. And the thing I also would have liked to hear is about one or more coaches that did indeed have a positive impact on you.
Okay.
And I mean, you're going to be in a room full of coaches who probably have coached more than you, at least at this point.
Right.
But they haven't competed at the level you have. And they haven't played, many of them have not played for a Division I college coaching staff. And so, like if there was something that Northwestern, it was Northwestern where you played?
Yeah.
If there was something, maybe they weren't positive coaches. I don't know. Maybe they were. But I bet there was something that they did that fit with PCA. You know? And I would have liked to have heard a little something about positive coaching in your own experience, especially that mystical Division I competition that we all, strive for and wish our own kids could play, and you did it. So I'd like to, and then Kelly, let me just wrap up and turn it over to you, see if there's anything else here. My other things, I'm going to mention a couple things, and they're specific little things. So, when again, I don't know if this is just me, it's a little pet peeve of mine, but I'm not a fan of hearing, if you take over these next 2 hours, if you take away one thing that makes you a better coach, then I'm not a fan of that. For one, I want lots of things in 2 hours. I don't want to settle for just one thing.
Okay.
And two is to me, it's so cliche, that saying, in not only in a coaching clinic, but in just any kind of situation, if you take one thing over the next 6 months, and it may be true. It may be true, but I don't know. It doesn't resonate with me. So much of what you shared and the questions really resonated with me. That's one thing that didn't. Okay. And do what you want with that. Maybe Kelly has a different opinion on it. I don't know. I liked when you said, I get the PCA weekly emails, and I like that a lot. That, and you shared that with us, and that you validated the value. PCA advocates, the 8 photographs, PCA advocates, those are members of PCA's National Advisory Board. And I don't know if it's 200, I don't know if it's 100, but it's somewhere in that range.
It's 196, actually.
There we go. So you said around 200, and they are members of PCA's National Advisory Board, and so that's a nice term to.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's it, Kelly.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that was funny. A couple weeks ago, John Sorensen did his demo, and he said, there's almost 200 National Advisory Board members. And I was like, what? There's no way.
Right, I heard it.
Yeah. And he went on and counted them. And I mean, he's like, I just went on the website and counted them all. There was 196. And I was like, wow.
I totally stole it from his interview.
But there's thousands and thousands of PCA advocates.
Yes.
Because an advocate is anybody who supports, that's not an official term for PCA, whereas a National Advisory Board, that's a select, group.
Okay. No, that makes sense, because I actually didn't know if there was a difference.
Yeah. And hey, Kelly, I know I turned it over to you, but I'm taking it back. Paige, I don't know how my feedback sounded to you, but I thought the demo was very strong, and
thank you.
I think you're on a really good path here. I think you've got a lot to work with, and your preparation and your conscientiousness. I thought it was a very good first demo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ruben. I actually wrote down a lot of the same things, which is great, because usually Ruben and I are on 2 different ends of the spectrum. So I agreed with a lot of it. I just think right off the bat, I always think first impressions. And I think you're very likable, very relatable. You don't come off as arrogant in any way. And you have a lot going for you. You were a high level athlete, played multiple sports. Now you're focusing on mental training. Like, you've got a lot to offer. And I almost think you should pump that up a little bit more, sort of, as Ruben said.
Yeah, because I didn't know, I'm sorry to interrupt you. No. I didn't know if I could add more of what I'm doing personally. And I'm like, oh, is there like a boundary of what I can add personally to what I'm doing and how it relates to PCA? So I just kind of wanted to ask that as well. Yeah.
So I think, when you're doing mental sports training, obviously when you get to the Elm Tree of Mastery, you're probably going to be all over that. And I think it's great to say, this is what I do. This is what I study. We had someone today talk about this whole study with Angela Duckworth, who's not one of our National Advisory Board members, but she's a world-renowned scholar in grit. And so she added that in, and I think it's great. What we want to stay away from is if you have a business of mental sports training and you're using PCA as a plug for your business.
Okay.
Because we've had that happen too, because a lot of trainers that we have side businesses of doing certain types of training. So we just want to be careful that this isn't, your marketing tool. But in terms of your research and experience, if you can add value to the workshop by bringing that in, by all means, do it.
Okay, cool.
Just a warning though, like that intro part that you did was already 34 minutes, which is pretty long for an intro because we want the introduction to really be the teaser. It's like the trailer before the movie. So we want to sort of whet their appetite to want to hear more. And it's hard because I want to give them everything right up front.
Yeah.
In the intro. But, you know, if you can keep it moving a little bit further along, a little bit quick, not quicker talking, just to keep the pace going a little bit more. I think you asked a lot of questions, but I think in some parts you asked almost too many questions that you could have saved for later on in the workshop to dive into that a little bit deeper.
Okay.
So, yeah, and you'll see what I mean. Like this is recorded, so you can watch this back and you might be able to see what I mean by some of that. I think you're also going to notice, I did notice that you're in like talking to us mode, conversational mode, and then slide mode. And I wrote I wrote better talking than slide reader is what I actually wrote down in my notes.
Yeah.
So
is there anybody that doesn't apply to, Kelly?
I think I'm a very good slide reader, Ruben, but it might apply to others. No, but you can just see, and there's a lot of people too that we notice that when they're in like trainer mode and then they'll tell a story and the story gets animated and exciting and detailed. And then they're like, and now I'm going to tell you about PCA. But let me tell you about this coach I had, you know, and it's so obvious to us watching that, you know, some people I'm like, skip the slides, be a storyteller. Like you're better at that. That's where your gifts are. So just a suggestion. And I think too, you're familiar with what you know. So when you fell into like PCA fact mode, you said a lot more of the ums and, you know, and like, you know, you kind of got stumbled up on the words and that makes you fall into like, or clearing your throat or that kind of thing. And when you're just talking, that's not part of it. So again, you'll get more comfortable with that.
Kelly,
I like how you brought.
Kelly, can I jump in on something there? You know, Kelly said maybe too many questions. I liked all the questions. However, I also agree with Kelly. I thought that some of them overlapped a lot, and so that, you know, I think you could have done less. You know, there was a little part of the questioning that felt repetitive, that we're driving at the same thing. And I think you know, 34 minutes. I think you can save time with condensing the questioning. Okay. And the information on when you go to the slides. I'd cut that. Okay. I'd cut that part in half. And you know, I personally would rather see you cut more of the slide time than your conversational story questioning, pulling us in part. Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you, Kelly.
No problem. Some of the things, Paige, that I really liked, I liked the way you put the Herm Edwards thing first. I think that's a good place to start. And I just thought that was really good. I think the, how do you want to be remembered is a great question. I thought the question about how will you make an impact, that was a little tough just to answer because it was so wide open. And I'm thinking, gosh, like, how do I want to make an impact on the world? I mean, I could be here for 2 hours explaining that. So I might either rephrase, or I don't even think you need to put that there. I think it's a good question, but I think in a room full of people that you're just getting to know, if you haven't really broken the ice yet, they're going to give you like cookie cutter answers. Yeah. Like, what is she talking about? You know, I'm going to move a mountain. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's just kind of big.
Kelly, I'm sorry. I usually don't do this, do I, Kelly? But you know, I had a similar reaction to those questions. You know, like, you know, deep and life question. But then your point was, well, doesn't what you just said apply to coaching? And that made it work better for me. I was wondering if you followed up with another question, what part of what you said, the impact you want to have in your life, what part of it does not apply to coaching? Okay. You know, and you know, because I think it almost all does.
I was going to say, I don't know how I'd answer that. And I think it all applies to coaching.
Well, that's just the point. The point is, if you want to be, what did you say, Kelly? You want to be shine light. You want to shine light. Well, I mean, isn't that what PCA wants?
Yeah.
We want coaches to be shining light all the time, you know? And so I do think that there's some potential there for that piece to be really powerful. So
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try to button it up.
I'm just going to mute you. No, I'm just kidding. The other ones that I really liked is when you asked, what do you think a good coach should be? I thought that was a good question, because a lot of times we'll ask, think of a good coach that you had, or you also mentioned something about like, what kind of a coach do you want for your child? I thought that was a really interesting question, because I started thinking about, usually it's like, what kind of a coach do I want to be? And it sort of put the onus on like, wait, who do I, and I've never answered, Ruben's seen me do this a million times. I don't think I've ever explained my daughter's swim coach in any of these demos, but she was the first person I thought of when you said, who do you want coaching your child? I was like, oh my gosh, Michelle, that's who I want. And that's who a positive coach is in my mind right now.
Right.
I usually always think about my coaches back in the day. Yeah. So it was good to be able to think of somebody current right now that's doing it the right way. And I think that says a lot about coaches these days, because a lot of coaches will think like, oh, there's a lot of negativity, and especially parents will think, oh, these coaches are negative. And there's really a ton of great positive coaches out there right now, and they're seeing it work. So I thought that was a great question. So you had a lot of strong statements in there too, Paige. I liked when you said PCA believes positivity is the best way to get the most out of your players. I mean, that's just a strong statement. It's simple. And it's like, those are one of those, I call them like sticky statements. Like that'll stick with me. Like positivity is the best way to get the most out of your players. Done. That's all they need to know. Drop the mic. The other one too, about what did a negative coach do to you? I don't know if that's how you worded it, but that's how I took it. Like, not why is there, I mean, you did ask why is there so much negativity, but I think skipping the why is there so much negativity and just getting to what did a negative coach do to you? And that's when you brought in your story. Now your story that you brought in, again, I thought it was great also. It was 23 minutes into the intro, and I would definitely move that up. When you're talking about negativity, stories are what people connect to. And we want you to connect as soon as you can to these coaches, because as soon as you connect, they're going to commit to what you're saying. So I would bump up that story right in the beginning where it says like, why is there so much negativity in sports? I would bring that in, that, my coach that was always on me, I was afraid to make mistakes. This is what the coach did for me. I would definitely put that up a little bit higher, or earlier, I should say. And you were vulnerable. You were talking about like, I'm still working through failure. And that, not necessarily is a result of that coach that you had, but it could be. Right. I mean, maybe that's why. I tell my kids all the time that, send me the bill for therapy someday, because I'm sure as your mother, I'm messing you up somehow. But I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people in therapy because of coaches that messed them up. Not that I'm saying it, but I do think it's nice to be vulnerable and honest and say, this is still something I have trouble with. It's still something I'm working through. And PCA is exactly what I needed, was another statement I thought was really powerful. If you had a coach that was a double goal coach, that's what you needed at the time as a kid. So you were able to be successful in spite of the coaches you've had, not because of the coaches that you've had. And that's a pushback I get a lot. Like, well, I'm a negative coach and we've got state championship ribbons, or my football coach was super negative and we won districts or whatever. Well, you won in spite of that coach, not because of that coach. And think of how much better you could have been in the long run. So I thought that was really great. I thought the book plug was really good. That you said, it's only 70 pages, read 3 pages a day. It's really valuable. I thought that was great. The only suggestion I have in terms of questions is I call them drop questions. So you said, for example, you put the slide up and you said, so what makes a great youth experience for kids? What makes a great youth sports experience for kids? And then you just went silent. So I'm sitting in your workshop going, does she want me to call it out loud? Does she want me to raise her hand? Does she want me to turn to a partner? Like, give us a little more direction when asking questions to make it super specific. All right, can someone tell me, or can someone answer this question? Or can I have 3 people give me an answer to this? Turn to the person next to you and share for a minute. What do you think are the ingredients to make get in a group of 2, get in a group of 3, stand on your head, whatever you want them to do. Give them directions, and also give them a time limit. And it seems very elementary, but it's really helpful if you say, okay, I'm going to give you 1 minute to talk to the person next to you and answer this question. What do you think makes a great sports experience for kids? It'll just help you manage your workshop a little bit better. And then you won't have to bring the crowd back, because they don't know if you have 5 minutes or 1 minute or 30 seconds and sometimes if you just ask a question, they don't know if it's a rhetorical question, or is it something you want me to answer, or do you want me to just shout out or raise my hand? Because everybody's different.
Got it. Okay.
Be specific about that. And I do like the last one I thought was really good. I wasn't sure where you were going at first, but I do like it when you said, what does it feel like to win? And then what are some of the life lessons? And how you actually said, like, think about the winning. It makes me feel happy. It makes me feel successful. It makes me feel like those are so temporary. And I mean, you didn't necessarily say that word, but that's the message I got out of it, that all the benefits of winning are temporary. but all the benefits of life lessons can last a lifetime, literally. And I mean, I put stars next to things I want to steal. And I think that was just a really powerful way to talk about it, because everybody wants their kid to win, but game's over. Guess what? The next game's tomorrow and you might not win. And then what? But the resilience and the teamwork and the commitment and all that, those are lessons that are going to stick with you regardless of whether you win or lose. And that's awesome. So I like that a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I would suggest the next one that you do is going to be on one of the principles. And this is where the principle section is where you have the theory of the principle, where it came from, where the, the research came from, and this is what the principle is. And then there's a scenario for the coaches to be able to link it to their own experience. And then there's the tools. So out of those three parts, if it's the reason or the explanation of the principle, the scenario where they link it to their own life, and then the tools they're going to bring home, which one do you think is most important out of those three? Which one do you think is most valuable to the coaches?
Probably the scenarios.
The scenarios and the tools. Yeah.
So a lot of connect with.
Right. So a lot of times, if you have 20 minutes per se, give or take, to do the principle, we have a lot of people, especially in the beginning, that spend like 18 minutes talking about the principle. And then they're like, okay, here's a scenario and here's the tools.
Okay.
So I just want you to think about the fact that if you're a coach sitting there, all of them are like, okay, this is great. This is great. Tell me how to do it. How do I get my kids to stop beating themselves up when they make mistakes?
Yeah.
How do I get my kids to stop picking on each other?
Okay.
They want to know the concrete tools. And so practicing the tools in your workshop is even better than just telling them why they should do it.
Okay.
So I want you to kind of think about that when you go, whichever principle you do, whether it's Tree of Mastery, Feeling Emotional Tank, or Honoring the Game. Think about how you can bring those tools to life for the coaches, and how can they actually practice them in your workshop.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. Yeah, that's helpful.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay. All right. I will send you this recording back so that you can watch it if you want to torture yourself, because I never like watching videos of myself back, but I'll send it to you anyway. Thank you so much.
To the comments again.
What'd you say?
Maybe I'll just fast forward to the feedback.
There you go. That works.
Hey, Kelly, can you stay on for just a couple minutes on another matter? Or
Yeah,
or I can call you, whichever you prefer, Kelly.
No, that's okay. I'll just stop recording.